Drawing this inflated heart in Procreate is easier than you think, and I'm going to show you step by step how you can do it even if you're a beginner in digital art. This drawing idea was actually requested by one of my subscribers, and it is inspired by the inflate option that is available in Adobe Illustrator. There is no special button here in Procreate, so we have to just draw it by hand. Before you start, you can download the color palette I have for this illustration, and make sure to download all of my brushes. They are free and they are linked in the description of this video. And if you enjoyed this tutorial and would like to draw more of me, make sure to check out my Patreon where I have more step-by-step tutorials like this and many Procreate brushes. Link is in the description. And with all that being said, grab your drawing tools and let's start. Let's make a new canvas, A4 canvas from Procreate. And first we're going to color the background. So let's take the color. It will be this one. And we can just drag and drop it in here like this. Now let's make a new layer to draw our heart. Let's change the color. Take this darker pink color. And here to do it easily and quickly, we can use my stamp brush. Let's go to Siakulaart freebies brushes. And take Heart Filled. My brush size here will be 86. And we can just stamp it over here like this. Now we can take the arrow tool. At the bottom I have uniform option selected and snapping turned on. So this way we can move it to the middle of the canvas and it will snap in there. Okay, let's tap here to finish. And now the fun begins. We have to start adding here light and shadow. First we are going to make this look like this heart is inside of this background here, like it's pushed into it. To do it, we are going to duplicate this heart. So let's open the layers and let's swipe on it to the left and pick duplicate. Now let's go to the layer underneath and we can change the color of this. Let's open the colors and take here black color. Let's drag and drop it in here. Now we don't see this heart, we have to make this bigger. So let's take the arrow tool and with the uniform option selected, let's make it bigger like this. Make it go bigger here from the top and then from the bottom like this. Let's do it very, very lightly, not too much. Let's tap here to finish. And now we are going to blur this. So let's go to the adjustments and take Gaussian blur. Swipe your pencil and screen to the blur size. And let's make this 17%. We are going to change the blending mode of this. So let's open the layers. Let's tap here on this N letter. And we can change this here to darken. And let's turn down the opacity. Let's make it something around 59%. Let's do the same thing again now. So go to the first layer with the heart. Let's duplicate it. Take the layer underneath. Let's again color it black. And we'll make it bigger again. But not as much like we did the first one, so just a tiny bit. Like this. And let's blur this too. So let's go to the adjustments, take Gaussian blur, and let's make the blur size here a little bit less, maybe 7%. Okay, let's tap here to finish. Now we want to add here some color to this outside. The color will be reflected from this darker pink. So to do it, we are going to duplicate the heart again, this one. We can take the layer underneath and we can change the blending mode of this. Let's set this to overlay and we'll make it bigger too. So let's take the arrow tool and let's make it bigger, like this. Okay. And also let's blur this. So let's go to the adjustments, take Gaussian blur, and make the blur size here maybe 14%. Let's tap here to finish. And we can turn down the opacity of this layer. So let's go here and let's turn it down. We want this to be visible just a little bit. I will make it 57. Okay. Now we want to add here a little bit more of that reflection, but only in few places. So for this, we can duplicate this layer, the one with the overlay mode, and let's take the layer above, so the one that is selected now. We can make this just a little bit bigger, so let's take the arrow tool again and make it bigger in the same way, so up and down here. Okay. Let's tap here to finish, and we are going to erase some parts of it. So let's take the eraser, let's tap on it again, and we can set it to airbrushing and soft brush. Let's make the brush size here 15%, brush opacity 63, and let's erase here some part of it, so it will not be so strong everywhere, but just in few places. Okay, and now we can change the opacity of this layer. Let's make this one maybe 65. Now we are going to add here some more shadow on the outside. For this, we are going to duplicate this layer over here. Let's take the layer underneath here, and we are going to make this bigger. So let's take the arrow tool. Let's make it way bigger, like this. Okay, let's tap here to finish. And here we want to have kind of just like a frame, like an outline of the heart. So we have to cut out the middle part of it. For this, we can duplicate this layer again. Let's take the one underneath now. Let's take the arrow tool, make it bigger, but not as big as the one we just did a second ago. Okay, something like this. So now we are going to cut this heart from the other one. So to do it, we can tap on this layer here and pick select. So now everything on this layer is selected. Make sure the color fill is not turned on. And with this selection, we can go to this layer at the bottom here. We can tap on it and pick here clear. So now we have here just an outline. We can delete this layer now. Swipe on it to the left and pick delete. And here we can change the blending mode. Let's set it to multiply and turn down the opacity. Let's make it something around 23%. On the same layer, we can darken here the corners of this canvas. Let's take the brush, let's tap on it and let's set it to airbrushing and soft brush. And with the brush size 22, we can turn down the opacity here. Let's make it 44. We can just darken here the corners like this. Okay, now let's add here some light on the outside. For this, we are going to make a new layer, and we can put it right under our main heart, over here. Right away, we can change your blending mode to add, and we can take white color, this one. Let's use here my new brush. It is just modified soft brush. Let's go to Siakulaart Special and take soft tapered. And with the brush size 29, the brush opacity 72. Let's just draw here some light on the outside. So we'll just draw here lines following the heart shape, like that. And if you think that your lines are wobbly, shaky, we can change the settings. I will do it. Let's go to the Actions menu, Preferences, Pressure and Smoothing, and change the stabilization. Let's make it a higher number. I'll make it 47. Now my lines will be less shaky. So let's add here some lines on the outside of the heart, following the shape of it. Now I'll make the brush size bigger, 60%, and just make those shapes here a little bit stronger and bigger, like this. I will add also one here more outside. Same on the other side. A little bit here. And now let's take a small break, and I would like to ask you to write a comment with the word heart. It would mean a lot to me. I would know that you enjoyed this video and I could see who is watching me. So thank you for doing that. And now let's go back to drawing. I will make the brush size smaller again, 25, and just make this line stronger. Let's blur this just a little bit. So let's go to the adjustments and take Gaussian blur. Let's add here blur size 5%. So even if you had some shaky lines, they should be fixed now. Let's tap here to finish. Okay, and now we can make this stronger and more shiny by duplicating this. So let's swipe on it to the left and pick duplicate. And let's take the layer underneath and change the blending mode of this. Now let's set this one to add. And let's turn down the opacity so it's not too strong. I will make it 48. And we can turn down the opacity of this normal layer here. Let's make it 37. Okay, and now we can add here some extra lights on this top layer here, this one. Let's add some light here on this shadowed part, but just very, very little. And very gently, just like that. So it's not just like a flat shadow here. Okay, and I will make this point here stronger, brighter, and maybe also this one just a tiny bit. Okay, now we can move on and add some light and shadow to the heart inside. Make it look more 3D. So let's open the layers and go to the layer of our heart. And now we want to add here some shadow on the edge of it. So to do it, let's tap on this layer here and pick select. Now here at the bottom, let's pick invert. And let's make a new layer now. Let's change the color to black. Let's go back to the layers, tap on the new layer and pick here fill layer. So now we have here the outside of the heart filled in black. We are going to set this as clipping mask. So now you can't see it, but we want to make this smaller. Let's take the arrow tool and let's make it smaller like this, and now you can start seeing this heart, the outside of the heart over here too. So let's do it just a tiny bit smaller, so we can have kind of like an outline inside of the heart. Let's tap here to finish this. And we are going to blur this a little bit. So let's go to the adjustments and take Gaussian blur. Swipe your pencil on the screen to add the blur size. And let's blur this 9%. Let's tap here to finish. We can turn down the opacity of this. So it's not just black color like this. Let's make it 77. And now let's add here some color to it. So let's duplicate it again. And we can change here blending mode to overlay. This gives us here some color to the shadow. Let's turn down the opacity of this. Let's make it 60%. And we can make this just a little bit smaller. So let's take the arrow tool and make it smaller like this. And also here at the bottom, like that. Let's do it again. So let's duplicate this overlay layer. And let's make this one even smaller, like that. Okay. And we are going to blur this more. So let's go to the adjustments and take Gaussian blur. And let's make your blur size 17%. Let's turn down the opacity of this layer. Let's make it 33. And let's blur the layer underneath, so this one. Take the Gaussian blur and make this here 7%. Okay, let's do it one more time. So with the top overlay layer, duplicate it. Let's make it smaller, like that. Okay, and turn down the opacity of this layer even more. Let's make it 14%. Okay, now we can add here some shadow in the middle of the heart. For this we can go to the heart's shape, this one. Let's duplicate it. Let's take the layer underneath here and move it to the top. And we are going to color this black. So let's just drag and drop the color in here like this. And let's make it smaller. Let's make it here quite small. Maybe like this. Okay. And we can add here some shapes going on the outside like this. It doesn't have to be anything precise. Let's just extend it here a little bit. Okay. And we can erase the middle part of it. So let's take the eraser and make the bar size smaller. 11. And erase here kind of like a heart shape. So just like that, very lightly. Okay, now we can blur this. So let's take the Gaussian blur. Let's blur it quite a lot, 18%. And let's change the blending mode of this. We can set this to darken. And we can turn down the opacity. We want this visible just a little bit. I will make it 15%. Now let's make here one more layer. Let's also set it as clipping mask. Let's change the blending mode of this to darken. Take the brush. And we can add here a little bit of more color, just in few parts. Just like that. Draw here kind of parts of the heart shape. This will be enough for me. Let's blur this. So take Gaussian blur. Let's make the blur size 19 and let's turn down the opacity of this layer. I will make it 25. Okay, and now let's start adding here light. So let's make a new layer for this. Let's set it as clipping mask. And change your blending mode to add. Let's take white color. Let's make the brush size bigger. Let's make it 46%. And let's start drawing the light here. Let's draw a big light over here in the middle. Something like this. Now a little bit here on the side, following the shape of the heart. Maybe one more on this side. Let's make the brush size smaller now for thinner lines. Let's make it 24. And following the shape of the heart, draw lights like this. And again, don't worry, we'll still blur this a little bit. So if your lines are not perfectly smooth, it will be fixed. Okay, so for me this is enough on this layer. Let's take the Gaussian blur and add here blur size 8%. Let's tap here to finish this. We can turn down the opacity of this layer. For now, let's make it 40% and let's duplicate it. Now let's take the layer underneath here and we can add here some more shine around that big one in the middle. Let's make the brush size bigger, 57%. And let's spread it out here a little bit, like that. Also here on one side. Maybe a little bit here. I will also add some more here at the bottom. Okay, so I've added just a little bit more light here and I'm going to blur this. So let's take the Gaussian blur and add here small blur size 4%. Let's open the layers. And let's take the layer on top and we are going to duplicate it. And here we can change the blending mode to normal. This way we can have here some more white light. Let's turn up the opacity of this one. I will make it 72%. And now maybe I will change the opacity of this layer. So the one underneath, I'll make it higher. I'll make it 61. Okay. And now let's make one more layer on top here. Let's set it as clipping mask. And we can add here some extra light. Let's make the brush size smaller, 31%. and we can just draw a few more extra white spots on this heart. So I'll add one over here in the middle. And now maybe over here. Let's make the brush size smaller, 14%, to draw more precise lines. I'll make this spot brighter. Maybe over here, just a small line brighter. This one too. Here just a little bit. And also one line here. Okay. And now let's look at our illustration and we can do some final adjustments. I think I have to blur one of those lights layers even more. This one. I'll take the Gaussian blur and just blur this more so I don't have here like a patchy spots. I'll make this 18%. Okay. And now I will go back to that top layer and I will blur this one also just a little bit. I'll make your blur size 4%. And maybe I will still add here tiny bit of light over here. I will do it here on this layer. I'll make the brush size bigger, 41. And very lightly I'll add here some more light like this. Okay, and now in the end I will go back to those shadows on the background. This layer over here, the multiply layer, and I will turn down the opacity of this just a little bit more. I will make it 12% and I will duplicate this layer and change your blending mode to overlay. I think this would look nicer this way. And I will turn up the opacity here to 20%. Let's see now. Okay, and in the end I will still blur this layer just a little bit. I'll make the blur size here 14%. And now this illustration is finished. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and I hope you can share your drawing with me on Instagram. I would love to see it. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to check out my Patreon. Link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching and see you in my next video. Bye!